Welcome back. Question and answer part 4. A little bit of a setting change, location change, and I hope I'm not getting too bad of a glare from outside because it's actually really, really nice out today. But I decided to spend some time with you. It's time to pick back up where we left off on the 9,000 subscriber question and answer session. We have, for our first question of today, Mikey Lambow asking, where do you see a metal void? What niche has room for more bands that, or could be taken to the mainstream with one band that encompasses all the tropes of that subgenre? Well, I think that you're kind of seeing where one of those keynote places are kind of being elevated to the surface a little bit in the sludge metal genre and the sludge metal game. It's something where there have always been bands that have been, more provocative than others, that have had a little bit more of a fan base than others, but now you're starting to see it infused a lot more with other traditional aspects. I think that with that being done and kind of making these like micro genres by itself, you could definitely see the rise of some prominent sludge bands, or at least some sludge-based bands. And the words, and the one that really comes to mind is High on Fire. Even the earliest incantations of Baroness had a lot of influence here. It's something where there is not necessarily a lacking of bands in that subgenre, but it's one where now there seems to be a little bit of a more mainstream knowledge of them, so it's going to help it in the future to kind of drive more people toward that sound, and it's already starting to happen. Evan Lacey asks me, what's my alcoholic drink of choice? A beer. I used to do the whole hard alcohol thing, but I'm more often than not just sitting with a beer, mainly because since I have bad knees, I tend to have to take a lot of pain medication, whether that just be your basic pain medication or something a little bit stronger. So it's usually not a very good combination, so I really don't drink that much, surprisingly enough. Now we have something here that's been flagged as spam. Let's show this. You've hated on a lot of bands and artists, but what is the #1 metal artist of all time that you can just not tolerate and have no respect for whatsoever? This is by DeLongIs46. I'm really not sure if I have somebody that I hate with that much bane, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I have, just about every metal band that I've listened to has at least something that really makes me, I enjoy it. It's just not... There's nobody where there's nothing out there for me. There's definitely always a reason for a lot of things. I've never been a big OTEP guy. Nothing personal to OTEP fans. It's just, whatever. Cursed NS do the top 10 Big 4 songs. I'll have to consider that. Damon Fury 1, greatest black metal album ever. That's a great question, and you're going to get a lot of different answers with that, all depending on who you talk to. I may have to do a top 10 black metal album video, which will be hotly disputed and everyone will hate, but I will do it anyway. I really think that you have to look at some of the classics. Storm of the Light's Bane by Dissection really comes to mind. First and foremost, some of the early Emperor albums are just absolutely mind-blowing. You have to consider Ask from Burzum as definitely a huge purveyor, some early Dark Throne. Mayhem, of course, you cannot escape Mayhem in this either. It really is something that just depends on your personal input. I really think that some of the classics really rank up there as some of the best of all time, and that's not to say that there haven't been any that have come out in the past couple of years that haven't been tremendous, such as Lawless Darkness by Watain. Smacky 2006, what non-metal bands do you like to or listen to? Any surprises? Current and past bands would be nice. I have a ton. I listen to a lot of indie rock. I've always been a purveyor of alternative rock. My collection is massive. It includes everything from REM to Mother Love Bone. Of course, I'm a huge fan of them. I listen to a lot of the 90s alternative stuff like Fuel, Sugar Ray, things like that. I just went and saw the Gin Blossoms, which were big in the 90s scene. There's just a lot. And recently, I have actually become quite fond of Miguel. He's a pop singer that actually has a bit of a Prince vibe to him, and Prince was definitely a very unique artist in the 80s and the first part of the 90s that still is making music today. And I really think this guy has that same kind of moxie. He has that same it factor to it, where I could see him being a very important part of making pop music not so monochrome in the future. I think that if he's able to really break out and showcase himself as the front runner for the prominence of pop, then you're really going to see a big change. We have Fulton. Dude, subscribe to Fulton's Reviews. Seriously, it's very easy to remember. Fulton's Reviews. Congrats, brother. Here's the 9,000 more. If you could be reincarnated as a single personnel member, musician, producer, etc. for any albums in history during the times in which they were made, which would they be and why? I would love to be in for Blackwater Park by Opeth because it contains two of my favorite people in history in music, that being Michael Ackerfeet and Steven Wilson. And I would really just enjoy being anything from a fly on the wall to a knob on the production, gadget. But even being reincarnated as, somebody that was in Opeth would just be fantastic because, Mike would be my arrogant best friend. There you go. I mean, that's it. Because that's just a magical time. Blackwater Park is a classic, legendary album. If I wouldn't do that, then I would definitely be the producer of Rest in Peace. By making it, considering it's my #1 metal album of all time. And honestly, I just want to know what went into making that. Day 1 PC, what do you think of Emperor's Prometheus, the Discipline of Fire and Demise album? A lot of Emperor fans consider it to be the weakest. It was actually the first Emperor album I ever got. I really, really like it. A lot of people might kind of shun it a little bit because it was their last official release, not to mention it may not have been as mind-expanding as the ones previous, considering Emperor was kind of always a forward-thinking band. However, I think it really holds its own, and I think it does a little bit more than some of the others do. The others, while they are, genre-pushing, definitely push a lot of boundaries, but there's definitely a lot of direct nature to them. Whereas there was a little bit more of a freedom to explore with Prometheus, and I noticed a little bit more on that than I did in some of their other albums. So, it's really just kind of one of those things where it ended up being the only one I saw in the store, so it was the only option I had at the time, but it ends up being one of my favorites. Andy, too extreme for you, what is your choice of career? I would love to stay in the music business. I would love to do this as a career. That'd be awesome. Of course, I would have to make a whole lot more money than I am right now in order for that to happen. So I definitely have to put a business plan together if I want to make that a reality. But I would love to stay in the music business because it's just it's something that I love. It's a tremendous amount of fun. Working in a music store might not seem like the music business to most people, but it really is. You're basically the middleman between the artist and the consumer, basically trying to let people know what the work sounds like, who sounds similar, or what exactly is going on. So it's a very, very important role in society, considering art and music is something that is considered to be absolutely breathtaking, and without it we would be nothing as human beings. Favorite Morbid Angel album, asks Dream Theater Fan 360. It's kind of a 360 compared to your screen name. I would probably go with either Blessed Are the Sick or the classic Altars of Madness. Altars of Madness, I have a story actually that I could tell, but don't want the R rating here, which I'm surprised I don't get anyway. But I had an experience of the erotic nature to Altars of Madness, so it will always hold a special place in my heart. But Blessed of the Sick is a fantastic album. Damnation was really good. Gateways to Annihilation was the first album of theirs I ever picked up, and I never got to listen to it because it was, whenever I opened the CD, I got it used at a flea market. There was a big stain on it and stuff, so it's just, I never got a chance to listen to it, but once I did, I really appreciated it, and then we know what happened from there. So, yeah. 8ball3456, what's your favorite Devin Townsend songs, or what are your favorite musicians, metal or not? I definitely have talked about some of my favorite musicians with Andy Wood from Mother Love Bone, Lane Staley from Alice in Chains, Michael Ackerfeet Opeth, Steven Wilson, Devin Townsend, Dan Swano, Dave Mustaine, even though he's been a prick lately, I actually have a joke with my girlfriend that we were married at one point in time, and I divorced him because he decided to become a Republican douchebag, so it's it's a funny little inside joke that just went out of control. Favorite Devin Townsend songs, that's a rough one. I'd have to maybe put a list together for that, which is a good idea. Ranter and Shades, who are your favorites as far as glam metal goes? Steel Panther is really reviving that scene, which is awesome. I wouldn't really consider Skid Row to be too attached to glam. It was more just attached to that 80s metal style, but if you want to attach him to glam, I love Skid Row. Early Motley Crue is really good. Dr. Feelgood's a great album that was actually produced by Bob Rock. Yeah, the 80s are actually not that bad of a time frame. It's given a bad rap, but those people are born to be performers. They do a fantastic job whenever they do live shows. I saw Poison, Dokken, and Sebastian Bach live a couple of years back, and I had a ton of fun at that show. I would definitely go to shows like that again if the price tag were to be a little more reasonable. Ozzy, that's with Many Z's, 393. Gordian Knot, November, what are your thoughts on these two groups? I've listened to them both, and November just needs to put out a new album already. I mean, Jesus. I really love the Blue. They're a very, very great band. Tremendous. Gordian Knot I haven't listened to in a long time, but they have a certain classic element to them. Both bands are tremendous. They are they're overlooked a little bit in the prog scene, but I think with November, for the most part, it's been because of the length between releases. And they were kind of just starting to get a lot of momentum whenever the Blue came out. With Gordian Knot, they're always kind of on the tongues of people as this, like, the classic sort of type of thing, you know. And they might be destined to be those bands, kind of like Can and other assorted progressive metal, or progressive rock acts, should I say, from the 1970s that, you know, are never on the lips of most traditional music fans, but are revered by the future generation of progressive musicians. Let's do two more. Actually, let's do three more. And then we'll call this one a wrap and put it in the can. Why do you wear sunglasses inside? Asked Bodum Headbanger 19. Kind of just my shtick, actually. It was something that I just did for the channel one day, and there was a great response. They really loved the sunglasses whenever I posted the video. It was sometime in early 2011. So I just continued on with it. That's just kind of my shtick. So, you know, obviously for this right here, I'm using my actual glasses. That way I can read the screen, because I'm, you know, going right off of the screen, not off of, you know, paper. I would kill so many forests it wouldn't be funny. But it's just my shtick, so that's it. Blind Man SG1, have you heard of the band Savage Messiah? And if so, what do you think of them? I have heard of them. I have not heard the album. I believe that's something that I had gotten with intent to listen and potentially review, and then never got around to it. So, one day, whenever I have a semblance of free time, I'm going to have to visit that. And finally, Monkey Fodder, with a great question. What is your favorite Faith No More song and your favorite Faith No More album? Album is hard because it's probably a tie between Angel Dust and The Real Thing, and the song The Real Thing is just tremendous. That's a fantastic song. Zombie Eaters is classic. You can't go wrong with a lot of these songs. I played Kindergarten off of Angel Dust so many times it was impossible for me to realize that I was just playing it to death. To the point where I was just walking down, you know, the streets of my campus whenever I was in college saying, "Return to my own vomit like a dog," you know, just because I could. There you go. I couldn't, I would almost have to make a list, but I would probably want to span Mike Patton's career in general, and that could take some time, because there's a lot of his newer stuff that I need to revisit. Well, there you have it. Stay tuned for part number 5 of the Q&A. We might be doing this until we hit 10,000 subscribers, folks, because more questions keep on coming in.